If you don't want to do things the right way, the Florida State way, you're not going to be playing for the Seminoles.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. The Florida State Seminoles have a rather unique group of obstacles. I've got 5 that I want to talk about today, among many, 2 of which honestly concern me a lot and not many people are talking about. We're going to get to that later in the show. But at first, though, we need to expand on yesterday's discussion, the very surprising depth chart that Florida State released and why certain players were not a part of the depth chart or weren't starting. This is something that I thought was going to happen starting this offseason. It happened in fall camp. Fall camp. I want to talk about that right now. Florida State's coaching staff has done the rebrand, the reset, to do it the right way, the no-nonsense approach. We may lose more right now, which we don't like, but for the long term, Florida State coaching staff, Florida State's coaching staff, they have taken a stand. And amen, a tip of the cap. It takes a lot of guts to do what they're doing, especially coming off the season they did. They took a stand. And it's in layers, and I want to give credit to everybody. But first, I just wanted to say that there had to be some culpability in the coach's office to say, we know that we're going to take some heat for this because the wins and losses probably won't match remotely what fans want this year. But to get to where we want to be an elite program, not one that goes to bowl games, not win 6 or 7 games, this is the step that is necessary. If they can us because of it, you know what? So be it. So be it. This is not a short-term fix that Florida State is doing with this depth chart. This is a play the guys that are being held accountable and earning their way onto the field. This is getting young players that were recruited out of high school just as much, if not more, than the portal guys, regardless of who's making the most money, who's got the most impressive NIL deals, any of that stuff. Some programs really trot out guys that they spend money on. I don't think Florida State's doing that, and I love it. I love it. If you take nothing else from this podcast, note, Florida State's coaching staff is taking a stand. They're absolutely taking a stand against the belligerent laziness and doing things in an individualistic way that the 2024 team often showcased and led to 2 wins out of 12 tries. This team may not be great by any standard, but I'm going to be happy to cover it because Florida State is putting guys out there that do it the right way in practice. I just listened to JP, the linebacker coach, talk. He solidified me doing this. I wanted to watch him today before I put all my notes together, put pen to paper. He solidified it for me. Talking about the special teams guys and how some of the walk-ons, why they made the – I get it. They're just giving you hints. They're giving you breadcrumbs. They're not going to just say we're throwing guys under the bus for not working the way they should or taking the wrong angles in terms of how they work out or how they even run to the ball. If you don't do it the right way, you're off the 2 deep, maybe even the 3 deep. We don't care what your recruiting ranking is. We don't care what your NIL deal is. We don't care who offered you besides Florida State coming out of high school or in the portal. We care about once you get here, everybody starts at 0, and then you climb day by day, brick by brick, practice by practice, workout by workout, meeting by meeting. Everybody is even. There is no way in the world you're going to convince me otherwise, based, again, the last piece that I needed. If you want to go check it out and see that ammo, go watch JP's press conference. Just little hints here and there. It's the same things being solidified. Norvell, definitely Tony White. He really made it clear a couple weeks ago. They are only going to play guys that do it their way. They are going right down the middle. It's high risk for the short term and probably detrimental. Again, I'm cool with that. I know many of you won't because you probably already bet win totals and stuff. I hope you didn't bet the over. I am now solidly on the under for Florida State, and I'll get into that in a little bit. I'll probably make a lot of people very angry, and I don't care because I will never lie to anybody. I think Florida State is now on the under, maybe even by more than one game, because they're doing it the right way. Here's what I mean by that. Florida State's got to get rid of some more people still, which I anticipated, that aren't 100% in the boat with what they need to be doing. Now, I'm not going to call young men out by name, but I want you to go look at the depth chart. Go look at it on Instagram, on X, go to Florida State's website, whatever you want to do. It's on the Locked On Seminoles X page or the FB Scout _Florida X page. Go look at it. And they're, War Chant, everybody else got it too. Go through and look and say, okay, at this position, where's so-and-so? At this position, where's so-and-so? Now, a few guys are banged up, and that's it. It is what it is. It's football. For instance, Wayne McCoy's been hurt. That sucks. He would have been on the depth chart. That sucks. Without that, though, just the overwhelming and overarching theme, there are some players that even some of the guys in the media asked Norvell or other coaches, hey, where's so-and-so? And they give somewhat of a politically correct answer, but read between the lines. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. It is what it is. Sometimes you got to take a step back to get to where you want to go. When we finish this segment on this, there's a book called Good to Great that I've referenced on this show before that I'm going to do right now, and you can apply this to anything you want. It's a business book on how to operate a business, how to hire people from a managerial standpoint. And football is a lot like that because you have to do all the right things in recruiting, the portal, retention, to make sure you have the right mix. It's complex. In the book, it says you have to get the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and then get the right people in the right seats on the bus. They're still going to be maneuvering after you get them on campus. For instance, you have players that have changed positions, and that's cool. Mekhi Danzy moved from running back to wide receiver. He's excelling. The coaches have talked about him glowingly over and over in fall camp. What do you know on the depth chart? He's number 2. Is that surprising? A little bit. But they're willing to work with him, even though Mekhi Danzy is a little raw as a route runner, et cetera, because he's never played wide receiver as a primary position. He's been a running back and kick returner. But he's put in the work. He's very talented. He's one of the fastest human beings on planet Earth, literally. And they're willing to go out on a whim for him because he will represent Florida State on and off the field the way the coaching staff wants. I'm not saying everybody's bad. They didn't make it too deep. Let's be clear. But there are some guys that if you know anything about recruiting or the portal, et cetera, you're going through there, you're like, man, that's a lot of young guys. Wonder what that is. Use common sense. Florida State's coaching staff has taken a strong stance. They're not playing any games. They do not care. If you do not meet the standard, you're not on the too deep. They're in murky water to be able to say the things I did today in press conferences. There's no shortcut here. You're going to have to read between the lines and either you believe it or you don't. But there are players that aren't on the too deep. It has zero to do with their physical capabilities. It has everything to do with the decisions made above the shoulders. Workouts, being on time, making sure you're at the meeting, being productive, doing it the way that coach said, not the way you want to do it in practice. Even if your way you thought was, no. Coach said you do. End of story. All that garbage that got Florida State in trouble last year is out the door. When we come back, we're going to be talking about 5 obstacles for Florida State against Alabama. And again, a couple of these, not many are talking about, and I'm a little bit concerned for Florida State on a couple of these. That is next on Locked On Seminoles. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal financial tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money, even without touching a spreadsheet. To give you an example of what I'm talking about here, you can identify all the different things that are going on in one place, and you're going to be able to see little things that you did or didn't do because it's more efficient, it's more streamlined, it's easier for you. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser, or half off your first year. That's 50% off for your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. This show is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost upon us, and the NFL is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's $300. So if you don't know much about what you want to do with it, maybe you want to use that in different ways. Player props, maybe there's an opportunity you like for NFL MVP, maybe who's going to win the AFC Championship, maybe who's going to win the Super Bowl, but there's a lot of different things that you can do with $300. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now and visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're having a lot of fun leading into the Alabama game. We're going to have more stats, more interest in regards to predictions, who's going to play, what positions they're going to be used at, and everything else. Make sure you like and subscribe here to Locked On Seminoles. Now let's talk about 5 areas that I'm concerned about. And the first one is one I'm going to try to mention literally every single day leading up to August 30th when the Noles kick off at 3:45 against the Alabama Crimson Tide inside of Doak Campbell Stadium, and that's special teams. Normally, I don't talk about special teams, and I openly admit that I don't want to cover kickers and punters. Openly admit it. I've never been able to figure them out. I'm not going to sit here and say today that I do, but there is one thing I know. Master Mono last year was just incredible at getting Florida State out of trouble when he was a punter. You had Fitz that was an incredible kicker for multiple years. Florida State was blessed, not with one, but 2 All-American level specialists. They're gone. I haven't talked about it, and that's my fault. But don't let myself or anybody else that hasn't done it remind you. Close games, the hidden yards and points, and special teams are very valuable. The Noles aren't going to replace that. You can compensate to a certain degree. And JP, and not today's press conference that I watched, but one earlier in fall camp, was pretty happy with where they were, all things considering. But do we really believe that you're even going to get 80% of the production of those two? I mean, those are guys that have NFL aspirations. To have both at the same time as veterans, I mean, that is a small window. They're probably, if you look at the last 20 years of college football, there probably aren't 4 teams in college football that had an All-American level player, legit, not just on some award watch list at number 18. Like top 5 at punter and kicker. Now, Florida State obviously squandered that last year, but think about would they have won the Cal game? No. They wouldn't have. The only game they would have won is that team at the end of the year, the directional game. Who in the world is Florida State going to get that's going to match that? They're not. Again, I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm just going to watch. I'm in believe it mode. And I hope that they prove me wrong right now. It'd be great for me and for everybody listening to this that's a Florida State fan. But the specialist for Florida State, is, especially in games like Alabama, Miami, Clemson, Florida, and NC State, if it's a close game, you want to be able to kick a field goal. You don't always want to have to punch it. Are they going to be comfortable with that? We don't know yet. At some point this year, maybe it's not the Alabama game. It's hard to say. The kicking game could be a problem for Florida State, especially based on what you were using last year, whether it's punting the football or whether it's field goals, whatever. That's just an expected step back. Don't forget about that. Those hidden yards and points are a big deal. Next, this is something I've been asked about a million times, and I just want to take this one on directly. It's a more common topic than the last one. But the run-pass mix, it's been denoted numerous times that, give or take, Gus likes to run the ball roughly 60% of the time, ideally. And I've been asked, hey, Brian, you've covered Gus when you covered UCF. Do you think it'll be that way at Florida State? Roughly. I do. I think two things will impact if it goes lower or higher than that. Number one, in games where they probably aren't the more talented team, Alabama, do I think they're going to run 60%? No. And the reason is Alabama has too much talent. You're not going to just grind them into the dirt and win 24-20. You're not. You're going to need a few more passing plays, more shot plays, more risky plays. So in a game like that, it's more likely to be like 53-47. Whereas a game against a team like Virginia, and I'll just give this example, that's a Friday night game on the road, and I've been really worried about it for a while. But if what I've heard through Bud, he announced it on their podcast over there to Cover 3, not one, but both offensive tackles for Virginia, and not one, not two, but three defensive backs for them have been banged up. Good Lord. Teams like that, if you get a lead on them and they've got some struggle issues, you might be able to grind them into the dirt. That game might be 75-25. You get up 17-0 in the first half. Why would you drop back and let Tommy take hits? So the run-pass mix, I could see being very different game to game. Don't get comfortable with anything that just happened. I don't care if they won big, lost big, or close. Every game, Gus can adjust. I've seen it. I've covered him. You're going to see a different kind of scheme whenever they need it to be. Tommy's a veteran quarterback. He knows Gus's scheme. They got Deuce and Squirrel, veteran receivers. And as Landon gets healthy, you still got Marcus and Douglas. You still have a really good guy in Randy Pittman, who's an all-encompassing H-back, tight end, fullback. They got all kinds of ways to throw the ball. It doesn't have to be all down the field. Screen, short passes, swing passes to the flat, bootlegs, waggles, 5-yard passes. They still count as a pass to move the football. I think you'll see a lot of that from the Noles against a lot of teams to mitigate what I think is going to be a pretty mediocre pass protection group up front. I know they're good at running the football, run blocking, but I'm not sold on FSU in pass protection. So I think that overall, it may get close to 60%, but this year, because the talent is probably not where FSU needs it, being kind, you're going to see lower than 60% run, probably closer to 55-45 for the year. That's unfortunate because when Gus is closer to 60%, they're probably winning more. But I think the Noles, and again, go back and listen to the first segment, they don't have the talent they need, and I don't think they got the buy-in from some of the talented players either. That's another whammy. They're going to have to try to take more chances. We'll see how that goes. Number 3 is one that I think is also undersold. When we come back, we're going to talk about it. This is an area with the depth chart. I'll go into it a little bit, but the safety and linebacker positions, they're going to be under fire. That is next here on Locked on Seminoles. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see your parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items for the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need something quick, Supply House has the ability for you to get it next day. If that's what you really need, you don't have to worry about it. Supply House has got you covered. Again, on-demand, real-time updates with their inventory so you can get what you need for your business. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Florida State has a unique scenario like any other defense that they've got to take on. Tony White's defense confused people. Last year, Nebraska held Ohio State to like 80-some yards rushing. Nebraska doesn't have the same talent Ohio State does. That's coaching, that's scheme, that's commitment. CSC, coaching, scheme, and commitment all have to come together. But that wasn't year one at Nebraska. This is year one for Florida State. Same kind of defense. Does Florida State have the depth, the buy-in, and all the people working together? I mean, it's a lot to ask. It's not an easy defense. You've got guys playing in a lot of different roles that may be somewhat new, more zone, a lot of questions. And this brings up a really good point. If you look at the NFL, if you go chart anything, you see those screens they put up on NBC or a Fox, ESPN, whether it's a high school, college, or pro game, they'll put the dots on the screen or like quarterback is 1 for 2 deep right. He's 3 for 3 short left, et cetera, et cetera. Middle of the field, you don't see a lot of throws, especially college and high school, because coaches don't trust quarterbacks to throw it in the middle of the field. Why? There's more bodies. Well, against quality teams, and let me give you a couple of examples. Ty Simpson's got a coaching staff around him at Alabama. They know what the heck they're doing with the passing game. Coach Grubb, Coach DeBoer, that staff, they're going to figure out. They're going to scheme up a few. If you don't make plays on some of those that they think they've got you dead to rights, that game is going to be really difficult. Because Bama's, outside the numbers, Bama has Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, just for starters, not to mention Isaiah Horton and a few other guys coming up the ranks. They're loaded at wide receiver. You have to be able to take away the middle of the field most of the time. You don't have to be perfect, but most of the time. So I ask again, with all the newness, Cryer and all the different players in the lineup, and I still think they're going to rotate pretty heavy in different ways, is Florida State going to be able to take away the middle of that field? And that means knowing exactly, the word exactly is what I'm talking about now. No missteps, no technical mishaps. Know exactly what your depth needs to be in this zone. Know who you're passing off when a guy comes through your zone to the next part of the field. All those little things. Because if you let somebody like Ryan Williams or Jeremy Bernard free on a crosser or even a stop route, they got plenty of space between you and them because you didn't do your job right. That's 6. They're going to make the first guy miss far more often than not. I don't care if it's Florida State players or whoever. You must control the middle of the field. At least make Ty Simpson throw out routes, back shoulder fades, throw farther away. If he hits them all, you know what? It just is what it is. You can't cover perfect passes everywhere, especially ones further from the line of scrimmage. That's just an old adage. That is nothing new that I'm saying. Do not let them kill you middle of the field, especially like that 5 to 15 yard range. You got to own it. I have no idea what Florida State's going to be able to do, but one of the designs for Tony White's defense, if you go look at it, and a good example would be Iowa State's defense. There's some similarities. Super complex. Pain in the butt to prepare for. That's what Tony's trying to do, and that's one of the problems Ohio State did last year against Nebraska. They didn't figure it out. They had way more talent, not even competitive to Nebraska, but the scheme gave them fits. With that being stated, can this year, in a first year of Tony's scheme, can Florida State own the middle of the field in the passing game? I have no idea. There's no precedent. We haven't seen them play yet. But that's something to watch in this game against Bama. Number 2, just matchups in general here. I think this is something, you can talk about Ryan Williams and all that stuff all you want. That's fine. But for Florida State, it's the front 7 of Bama's defense. To help out the defense that I just talked about, you got to keep Ryan Williams and those guys on the sideline. To do that, something I touched on a little bit earlier, they need to exceed my expectations in pass pro, number 1, with only 5 blockers. No chip, no double, no max protect. If they cannot be at least serviceable, even in obvious passing downs, with 5 protectors, it's not going to be a good game. Bama's got sickening talent in their secondary. If they have an extra defender back because they can rush 4 and get pressure on Tommy, the game will be over by halftime. Game will be over by halftime. I don't think that's going to be the case. They still got some new guys. They're talented, but I need to see it. Here's the caveat. Lawson and some of the other guys they have that play at linebacker, Clay Russaw, a younger guy that's taken that step, third-year player, Bama's, I don't know what they call it, jack or elephant position, whatever. Their weak side DN, he is a freak. Can Pettis handle him when he's lined up with him? Or anybody, really, if they run stunts and an inside guy like Medway has got to handle him. How do they do that? They have to be able to protect with 5 against Bama's front 7, whether it's stunts, blitzes, twists, anything like that. If Bama only has to bring 4 and they get pressure with their back 7, especially their nickel package, which is their base, that's no good. Something to really pay attention to. And then number 1 here, this is something that I think we've touched on, and this kind of like special teams. I'll touch on it every day this week. Come hell or high water, Florida State must have success early in this game. Now, you can use different barometers. So let's just use a few different ones. Number 1 is scoring, obviously. Just throw that one out there. They need an early, not a field goal, a touchdown in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game. I don't know who's going to get the ball first, so that's not going to give a specific time. But they need to punch it in and get pay dirt to get Doak involved, period 1. No ifs, no ands, no buts. If Florida State is down 10-0 at the end of first quarter, that's another one of those that gets me concerned. I don't think it will be. Gus is a really good play caller and setting up early drives. I think Florida State will score. I do. But I need to see it still. You can't have a dumb penalty. Tommy can't drop a shotgun snap and lose, you know what I mean, go off his foot and a D lineman picks it up like Clay Russaw. They need some success. Just don't shoot yourself in the foot. Secondarily, we talked about it a million times. Any Gus offense that isn't running the ball between the tackles is a doomed Gus offense. The Gus bus rides with the run game, whether it's duo, whether it's zone, whether it's GT, whether it's outside zone, whether it's quarterback game with counter, draw, RPO, I don't care. They have to be able to run the ball in the box. If they can do that, this game could be competitive and go down to the wire. 100%. Third kind of success, they need to rattle in some way, shape, or form Ty Simpson. However, the caveat here is this. Alabama knows that. Do we really think, even though they like to pass the football, do we really think they're going to give him anything other than checkdowns, screens, and just we think we've schemed this sucker out of the park on this against Florida State in the first quarter? Is he going to have any risky pass? Probably not. That means they're going to put the onus on their offensive line, which has at minimum a couple of guys that are going to get drafted high. One of their running backs is banged up, but they got like 4 others. Alabama's just loaded out to the gills at running back. I'm not concerned about that. They got players. If Florida State doesn't do well early in the game to slow down their run game, that way they get off the field, can suck air. Remember, this is 345 kick. I know these guys are used to it, but Florida State's D-line is not anywhere near as deep as I thought it was going to be based on the reports that we've gotten. Some guys just haven't delivered. They're not even necessarily hurt, if you know what I mean. They're just not as good as we thought they were going to be. That's a problem. And there is one injury too, but that's beside the point. To get off the field, to play less reps, to get the momentum and everything else, Florida State needs to find a way come first quarter, first play, pretty much 3 yards or less for Bama in the first quarter rushing. Needs to be the objective. They can do that and they can make Ty come out. You have to take a few more risky throws or they got to punt. You can have a good start. If at the end of the first quarter, Florida State's within 3, you got a chance in this game. If they're down 10-0, something like that, or worse, it's going to get ugly. Florida State is not built to play from behind in this offense. First quarter is going to be pivotal for the Florida State Seminoles against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. After checking us out, go check out Locked On ACC or check out my other podcast, Locked On the Portal. Both are a lot of fun with all the different games going on across college football. I just broke down the Texas at Ohio State game. Locked On ACC's got all the different stuff. Miami, NC State, North Carolina, Clemson, you name it, all those games. Make sure you check out everything going on across the Locked On Podcast Network. We will see you again soon.